Have you ever noticed why it's so easy to spend hours on social media but so hard to focus on an important task? The answer lies in a small chemical messenger in your brain, dopamine. Today, you will discover how it may be sabotaging your focus and how to regulate it to live a more fulfilling life. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter that controls your motivation, focus, and even your peace of mind. Let's understand how the excess of daily stimuli is making us addicted to immediate pleasure and what you can do to regain control over your mind and life. Let's start with a reflection. Why is it so easy to spend hours on social media but so hard to stay focused on something important like studying or working? The answer lies in how our brain responds to different types of stimuli. Activities like checking social media, watching short videos, or playing a game on your phone offer an immediate reward. And what's behind that reward? Dopamine. Dopamine is released in large amounts whenever you do something pleasurable, creating a feeling of instant satisfaction. In contrast, harder tasks like reading a book or focusing on a work project offer delayed rewards, so your brain doesn't naturally prioritize them. The consequence? You end up procrastinating and distracting yourself with activities that offer immediate pleasure, even though you know it's harming your progress. This is the modern dilemma. We live in an era of overstimulation, where everything around us is designed to capture our attention and release dopamine. But there's a price. The more you indulge in these small pleasures, the harder it becomes to focus on activities that truly add value to your life. But what exactly is dopamine and why is it so powerful? Dopamine is a neurotransmitter, meaning a chemical substance that transmits signals between nerve cells in the brain. It's directly linked to our reward and motivation system. Simply put, dopamine is responsible for making us act. Whenever you do something your brain considers rewarding, like eating something tasty, receiving a compliment, or getting a notification on your phone, dopamine is released, creating a feeling of pleasure and satisfaction. The problem is that the human brain evolved to seek these quick rewards. In ancient times, this made sense. Activities like eating or hunting were essential for survival, and the dopamine system motivated us to seek these rewards. But today, with the abundance of artificial stimuli, social media, games, short videos, our brain is being bombarded with dopamine all the time. The result? We've become increasingly dependent on these small doses of immediate pleasure, and this affects our ability to focus on more challenging and long-term rewarding tasks. Here's where the vicious cycle of dopamine comes in. When you get used to receiving these dopamine spikes from activities like checking your phone or watching short videos, your brain starts demanding more and more of these stimuli to feel the same level of pleasure. This creates an addiction cycle. The more you seek these quick stimuli, the harder it becomes to engage in activities that require effort and concentration, like studying, working, or even exercising. Imagine your brain is constantly being fed with small doses of dopamine. Every time you get a notification on your phone, your brain releases dopamine. Every time you watch a funny video or get a like on social media, more dopamine is released. Over time, your brain gets used to these constant spikes and starts demanding more stimuli to feel the same level of pleasure. This means that activities that used to be satisfying, like reading a book or learning something new, now seem boring and uninteresting. This cycle of dopamine addiction is one of the main reasons why so many people struggle to maintain focus and motivation on important tasks. They are trapped in a loop of seeking instant gratification, and this is harming their ability to concentrate on long-term goals. Now, let's talk about an important concept: homeostasis. The human brain is incredibly adaptable. When you receive a large amount of dopamine constantly, your brain adjusts to maintain balance. This is called homeostasis. The problem is that as your brain adjusts to these high levels of dopamine, it starts requiring more stimuli to reach the same level of pleasure. It's like your dopamine threshold is always increasing. This results in something we can call dopamine tolerance. The more you expose yourself to stimuli that release dopamine, the harder it becomes to feel pleasure from activities that used to be satisfying. Simple tasks, like reading a book or focusing on a project, start to seem boring and uninteresting because your brain is already accustomed to more intense and immediate rewards. That's why so many people nowadays feel constantly distracted and dissatisfied. What was once enjoyable now seems dull. and they are always seeking something more stimulating to fill that void. This constant search for dopamine is making us less productive, less focused, and ultimately, less happy. In recent years, a trend called dopamine fasting has emerged, where people try to disconnect from pleasurable stimuli like smartphones, social media, and junk food in hopes of resetting the brain and regaining focus. The idea is that by cutting out these stimuli, you can reduce dopamine tolerance and eventually relearn to appreciate simpler and more challenging activities. However, this idea of dopamine detox is actually a myth. The problem isn't dopamine itself, but how you use it. It's neither realistic nor healthy to try to eliminate all pleasures from your life. The real secret to regulating dopamine lies in learning to balance pleasurable stimuli with activities that require effort and concentration. The key isn't to completely avoid immediate rewards, but to use them strategically. Instead of cutting off all sources of dopamine, you can train your brain to associate dopamine with activities that truly matter. And here's where the next part comes in: how to regain focus and motivation in a balanced way. So, how can we regain our focus and motivation amidst this constant bombardment of stimuli? The answer lies in balance. Instead of completely avoiding pleasurable activities, you can use them as rewards to reinforce productive behaviors. One of the best ways to do this is by using the Pomodoro method. The Pomodoro method is simple. You work on a difficult task for 25 minutes, without interruptions, and then reward yourself with a short 5-minute break, where you can do something pleasurable, like checking your phone or watching a video. After 4 25-minute cycles, you can take a longer break, from 15 to 30 minutes. This technique helps train your brain to associate pleasure with completing important tasks. By using dopamine as a reward for your effort, you start to regain control over your motivation and focus. Instead of being a victim of constant distractions, you become the master of your own mind, using dopamine strategically to achieve your goals. Additionally, it's important to create an environment that favors focus. Reduce distractions around you, set clear goals, and use time management techniques, like Pomodoro, to stay on track. By doing this, you'll be training your brain to seek long-term rewards, instead of settling for immediate pleasures. The crucial point here is that dopamine is not your enemy. It's a powerful tool, but it needs to be used wisely. By learning to regulate how much and when you release dopamine, you can regain control over your motivation, concentration, and most importantly, your peace of mind. So, if you want to live fully, start paying attention to how you use your dopamine. Reward yourself with pleasurable activities, but only after completing your most difficult tasks. That way, you'll be training your brain to seek what truly has value. If you found value in this content and want to learn more about how to unlock your true potential, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. That way, you won't miss any tips on how to live a more focused, productive, and fulfilling life. See you in the next video.